This is part 6 of What If Naruto Lost His Sight. If you enjoy this what if, then like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Chapter 13. Hope you enjoy. Trouble 1. Tilde 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 tilde. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. The next day. Get up, I heard Jiraiya state as the covers disappeared from my bed. You're late again. 5 more minutes, I murmured back, rolling over to face the wall. No, you're getting up now. Before I knew it, I was pulled off my bed by my shirt. The short tumble to the ground woke me up quick. What the hell, I demanded, sitting up. You're late and you sleep like a rock, he stated as footsteps began to lead out of the room. Seriously, you wear those goggles to bed? Forgot about them, I said, scratching the back of my head as my drowsiness started kicking back in. Get dressed, we're leaving in 5. And don't say you're already dressed, I don't care what you wear to bed, but you're wearing clean clothes to training, is that clear? Yeah. And you better be ready to train today because you're not getting out early this time. I was just trying to figure out where my clothes were when his footsteps stopped. Why are your clothes in the living room? I dropped them, I said, walking towards the door only to catch my shoulder on door frame. Are you somehow incapable of walking straight in the mornings? You can't be that tired. What did you expect? I muttered, making my way towards where he was. Maybe that my student would be a little more bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, he answered as I got to the living room. Train a squirrel. Huh. I didn't say anything else as I found my clothes and dragged the basket back down the hallway towards my room. I could hear him muttering something about disrespectful brats as he rummaged through my kitchen. Once I was back, I searched through the clothes to find a shirt, pants, and a jacket. When I finally found one of each, I thought briefly about taking a shower but decided to save that inevitable torture for later today. At least then there wouldn't be anyone here to witness me fumbling with the knobs. So I got dressed, happy for once that the jumpsuits were all the same so I didn't have to explain why nothing matched. It was still hard to figure out what was what, but at least it was getting easier. I figured out that if I can just find the tags on the fabric, I can ensure that I'm at least putting everything on straight and right side out. After zipping up my coat, I started shuffling back towards the kitchen. I pretended to be slightly more tired than I was to keep the clumsy excuse as long as I could. Here, Jiraiya said grumpily. I heard something go flying before a rectangle object connected with my face and dropped to the ground at my feet. He sighed, eat it and we'll leave. If your crippling exhaustion isn't cured by that, then I'm going to have to shove coffee down your throat. You don't want to do that, I told him as I grabbed my granola bar and sat at the kitchen table. It makes me hyper. Never mind then, he said after a moment of thought. Oh, and this was on your doorstep, I think it says it's from Kakashi. Something plastic was placed on the table before being slid across the surface towards me. I held my hand out to where I thought it was coming only to have to hide my excitement when it actually connected. I held it up in front of my eyes, pretending to examine it as I ran my fingers around the box. It was a plastic square about 3 inches with a thick piece of paper tied to it. I ran my thumb over the paper, figuring that there was something written on it that I couldn't see. I was just debating whether to be mad with him when I felt letters indented into said paper. I wasn't sure what it said, but I really couldn't decipher it now with Jiraiya here. Setting the box aside, I picked my breakfast back up and began eating it. Aren't you going to open it? Later, I answered around a bite of granola bar. It's not inappropriate, is it? He asked, his tone suddenly serious. I swallowed my food as I thought of what to say. Like what? I tried to look confused, like I felt, but with the Kyuubi laughing in the background it was kinda hard to do so. Never mind, I don't think I want to know. Here. I slid the box back across the table, glad to hear it tap into his hand a few seconds later. You open it. I will then. His fingers made a slight sound as he picked up the box. I could hear him fiddling with the paper for a moment before he spoke. The note says that, I heard about your training. This should help keep you on time. Huh, whatever it is, he probably re-gifted it. There was a sound of plastic sliding against plastic before one piece clanked onto the table. It's a watch, Jiraiya said after a moment of silence. A watch? Yeah, a watch. A plain old watch. Another, heavier piece of plastic tapped onto the table before a rustle of paper was heard. It was quiet again as he no doubt read whatever was on it, then whistling in an impressed tone. You know how I said it was plain? Yeah. Forget I said that. This thing is not plain. It's basically a mobile alarm clock. He paused like he was reading a little further. It has a settable alarm, of course, a stopwatch. It even vibrates once every hour instead of beeping. Why would it do that? I asked in fake curiosity. You're a ninja, idiot. If you're hiding, you don't want your watch to give you away with a beep. It even has raised numbers so you can check the time without looking at it. You know, in case it's dark where you're hiding. How do you know that's what it's used for? Says so in the instructions. Anyways, that sensei of yours spoils you, kid. Nah, he's probably trying to make up for the fact he couldn't train me this month. Couldn't he have just treated you to ramen? You haven't seen how much of that stuff I can eat, have you? I took the late bite out of my breakfast and crumbled up the wrapper. I'd bet the watch was cheaper. That can't be possible. You wanna test it? I asked eagerly, forgetting to act tired at the possibility of ramen. He must have seen my sly grin and reconsidered. No thanks. Damn, so close. Alright, you seem to be awake enough now, Jiraiya said, his chair creaking as he got to his feet. Let's go so we can get started. What are we doing today? If I told you you'd run. I suddenly had an uneasy feeling as he shunshined us away to the training grounds. Somehow I knew this was going to turn out to be something closer to a torture session than a day of training. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. A few days later. Why? I demanded as I laid on the ground, too exhausted to move. Why do you torture me? Because I can, Jiraiya said with an audible smirk. Because it's fun, the Kyuubi piped up happily. You didn't even do anything. I haven't. Well, I guess I'm going to have to change that. I groaned as I heard him start to plot things that he could do to join in on the torture. But seriously, Jiraiya stated. This will really help you. How was trying to keep 5 leaves stuck to my forehead supposed to fix a jutsu that doesn't work? There's nothing wrong with the mechanics of the jutsu. It should work, so the problem must be with you. And, since your chakra search control is still garbage, I figured that was the missing link. Did it have to be done sitting on the lake? Yes, again you need to work on your search control. And the weights around my ankles. What were they for, other than trying to drown me, that is? It would be too easy without them. Whatever, I'm hungry. You're always hungry, he grumbled. I'm a growing boy, aren't I supposed to be? Fine, take this. With a sigh, I heard him fumble with his pocket for a moment before something went flying towards me. Deciding to experiment a bit, I reached my arm into the air where I thought it would be. This time when the rectangle-shaped parcel hit my hand, I couldn't resist the cheer came out. Why are you cheering? Jiraiya asked, making me freeze. I had no idea what I was going to tell him, my mind was completely blank of excuses. It shouldn't be, I've been coming up with excuses all along, but now there was absolutely nothing. What other reason could I have for cheering other than the real one? Isn't this why you wanted my help? The Kyuubi asked slyly. Oh yeah, what do I do? Call me the great Kyuubi-sama and I might help you. This isn't time to joke around. Who said I'm joking? There was a mental silence between them as I tried to figure out what he was playing at. You can't be serious, I'm not doing that. Looks like your sensei is starting to get suspicious. I think you've been quiet too long, Kit. At this rate he might figure it out for himself. Fine, great Kyuubi-sama, what the hell do I do? Not bad, but we'll have to work on the amount of sarcasm for next time. I'm glad you're pleased, now help. Tell him you had your eyes closed and were experimenting with your new senses. That's all. Lesson 1, keep it simple and as close to the truth as possible. Naruto. Jiraiya's voice sounded closer than before. Are you even there? Yeah, I answered. Thinking back on what the Kyuubi had just said, I figured out what to say next. The Kyuubi was being a jerk again. He wanted me to call him the great Kyuubi-sama. I shook my head in a disapproving manner. Did you ask me something, Ero Sennin? I'm offended, and slightly impressed. I hid a grin as Jiraiya asked his question again. I was wondering why you were cheering. I don't like being left out of the loop, especially if it's about something good. I caught the food, I answered, placing said object on my chest for safekeeping. Still not seeing the point. I didn't open my eyes. I wanted to see how good my hearing was, and judging by the fact I was able to catch it, it's pretty damn good. You picked up the sound of it going through the air, right? Yeah, it's a faint sound, but it's there. Everything makes a sound if you listen hard enough. Impressive. I nodded a bit as I opened the granola bar and took a bite. Thanks, I said with my mouth full. Jiraiya hummed in acknowledgement as I continued eating. I was just finishing and was starting to doze off when my watch vibrated once to indicate the time. Well, I believe that was your watch saying it's 5 o'clock, Jiraiya said, sand crunching as he climbed to his feet. That means we're done for today. See you here at 8 o'clock sharp. Got that? I nodded tiredly, listening to the faint whoosh of him shinshooning away. It wasn't until a leaf from the technique landed on my nose that a thought hit me. I shot up straight, suddenly awake as I listened hard, hoping he was still in the area because I had no idea where I was. But that wasn't what worried me. What worried me was that I had no idea how to get home. Kuso, I swore, flopping back into the sand angrily when I didn't hear anything. What am I supposed to do now? I'm stuck at this beach, with no way home. I laid there silently, listening to the calm noises that surrounded me, noises that I never would have heard before. Well, I guess it's not that bad. The sand's soft and warm, and I can always continue my training if I'm bored. Suddenly the calming sounds I was hearing were interrupted by my stomach growling loudly despite the granola bar. This led me to another realization that ruined everything. Damn it, I don't have any food. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. The next morning, Jiraiya made his way to the beach, hoping that the Gaki would be on time for once. He didn't have much faith though. After all, in the week he's been training him, the boy always had to be picked up in order to get him there. He had the feeling that the pint-sized ninja was doing this on purpose for whatever reason. He didn't want to even pretend he knew why. Trying to understand that boy was like trying to understand why the sky was blue. He was sure someone could, but he himself didn't have the patience to figure it out. Much to his surprise, Naruto was there when he arrived 5 minutes before 8. He was lying in the sand in almost the exact position he left him in last night, except he was completely asleep. Jiraiya was just trying to figure out why the boy was here so early when he noticed that his clothes were damp. Not like he had jumped in the lake fully clothed, but more like he had been laying there so long that the dew settled on him. Which would mean that the blonde never went home. Hey Gaki, Jiraiya said, trying to wake him up with an accompanying nudge of his foot. When he didn't respond, he lightly jabbed his toes between the boy's ribs, making him shoot upright. I don't want a search pink jumpsuit, he exclaimed, still half asleep. Gaki, what are you doing here? Naruto turned towards his sensei, staring at him blankly for a while before the question seemed to register. Jiraiya shook his head, assuming he was wrong about the registering part. Why are you sleeping on the beach? I was tired, he muttered in response. How long were you sleeping here? Don't know. How long were you gone? You spent the night here. It's morning already, Naruto mused as he stared up at the sky. He acquired a surprised look for a moment before continuing, sounding a little more awake. Yeah, I did. Why? Why what? Why did you sleep here? I was tired. Stop messing around, Jiraiya demanded, knocking the brat over the head. You're avoiding the question. Fine, Naruto grumbled as rubbed his head grumpily. I couldn't find my way home. Did your apartment move since you were last there? No, but I've never had to walk home after training, so I don't know how to get there from here. His watch chose that moment to vibrate, demanding the blonde's attention. He glanced down at the face, rubbing a thumb over tit almost adoringly as he began talking again. I've been stuck here for 15 hours with only that granola bar for food. It was horrible. I almost ate my jacket, but it tasted horrible, so I stopped. You're kidding. I don't joke around about food, the boy answered as he flopped back into the sand. Though, on the plus side, I was able to train a bit more. I can now sit on the lake for about 20 minutes with 6 leaves on my forehead. Nice, huh? Still can't get that jutsu to work though. Jiraiya didn't answer as he stared at the boy. How could he forget Naruto never walked home on his own? For a week now he carried him back to his small apartment, grumbling the whole way. With a sigh, he rooted through his pocket and found a few granola bars. Here kid, eat this, he said as he dropped them on the boy. He barely twitched, only glancing at them before flopping back into the sand. Seriously, I've been starving all night and this is all I get, the boy said, making Jiraiya wince a bit. Eat this now, and I'll buy you ramen after. Fine, he muttered, finally sitting up and grabbing one of the bars. But I better get at least 10 bowls out of this. Get you jutsu working and I'll pay for 15. Hi Arrow Senin! Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Several hours later. Oh glorious ramen, how I've missed you, I exclaimed as I latched onto the counter dramatically. You were right, it did work. Of course it worked, the Kyuubi said. I told you before, invoking an emotional response makes them easier to manipulate. Guilt is one of the best to use in something like this. I'll keep that in mind. Just don't let them know you're guilt-tripping them or it will backfire. Though I will admit, the jacket statement was a nice touch, it's not something I'd use but still. Thanks, I exclaimed happily. My smile widened as I let go of the countertop and sat down correctly. As if sensing my happiness at being praised, Kyuubi spoke again. That doesn't mean you can slack off, you need a lot of work kid before you have even a fraction of the skill I have. Yeah, I know. Good to see you again Naruto, Aim said happily. What will you have today? 3 miso ramens to start please. Will do, and I'll have my father put 3 more on when he's done with those like usual. Thanks Aim, I smirked to myself, silently gloating at my ramen-flavored victory. Hey Naruto, did you ever get that book back? Aim asked after delivering the order to her father. Book? Yeah, that adventure novel. Tale of the Gutsy whatever it was. With a start I remembered the book that was supposed to be acting as my attention decoy. The one I left here a week ago and was never able to come back for. But, before I could panic Jiraiya interrupted. Oh, oops, completely slipped my mind, he said before hearing him root around in one of his pouches. Here you go Gaki. The hollow sound of a paperback book being dropped onto the counter could be heard. I quickly picked it up and examined it. Why did you have it? I'm sorry, I asked him to drop it off to you when he was here last week, Aim explained. I didn't think it would take as long as it did. That's all right, I said, sending her a reassuring smile in the process. Thanks for watching it for me. Shouldn't you thank your sensei? He watched it longer than I did. Yeah, she's right, you haven't been thanking me nearly enough lately, Jiraiya said. I thumbed through the pages, pretending not to hear them. Naruto, Aim voice warned, her spatula thumping softly against the palm of her hand. I guess, I muttered, sticking my nose into a random page. Well. Thanks Arrow Senin, I said. I chuckled as I heard an annoyed sigh from my sensei. You're not going to let that go, are you? Nope. End of chapter 13. Start chapter 14. Blindsided by twice the trouble. Chapter 14. Anyways, hope you enjoy. Trouble 1. Tilde 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 tilde. So, Jiraiya started as they waited for their meals. You're reading Tales of the Gutsy Ninja, huh? The blonde looked up at him for a moment before turning back to the book. Yep. Liking it so far? Yeah, it's pretty cool. Lots of action. Jiraiya's ego inflated a bit, happy someone's enjoying it. What about the main character? I like him, he didn't even bother to look up this time. Very realistic. Good, good, anything familiar about him? No, why? His sensei stared at him with a look of true surprise. How could the boy not recognize his own name? He stared at Naruto for a while before noticing something, one thing that he should have noticed as soon as he opened the cover. The book was upside down. No, not reading, his head never moved not even a centimeter. He turned the page, yes, but he never looked at both pages. He was pretending to read the book to cover something up. He could see now that Naruto was tense when reading, like he was stressed. Oh, nothing. Jiraiya watched the tension in his muscles disappear, confirming that the questions were to blame. By this time, Jiraiya had figured out what was wrong with the boy, but he had to make sure. So after making sure no one was looking, he waved a hand in front of his book. Naruto's head popped up for a moment, making Jiraiya think that maybe he was wrong. Kinda windy, Naruto said, turning back to the book. Jiraiya sighed, getting up from his seat. Where are you going? Naruto looked up at him, confused. I have something I forgot to do earlier, he lied as he pulled some money out of his wallet. The girl came back balancing the 3 bowls. Jiraiya waited until she set the bowls down before handing her the bills. Here's the money for his food, just make sure to cut him off after 10. Oh come on, I worked hard enough for 15, didn't I? Naruto asked. Did your jutsu start working in the 20 minutes it took to get here? No. Then you get only 10. Okay, she gave him a kind smile before turning to Naruto. Here you go, Naruto. Yay, ramen, he shouted before putting his book down and digging into the ramen. Arigato sensei. You're welcome, see you tomorrow. The boy waved before turning back to his food. As soon as he was out of sight, even though he knew it wasn't really an issue at this point, he quickly shunshined away in search of someone. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. 30 minutes later. A half hour later, after searching 3 different training grounds, asking 5 different people of his whereabouts, and finally grilling his old sensei. He ended up in a desert-like training ground outside the village. From where he stood he could see Kakashi lounging against a rock as his minion ran laps consecutively. It wasn't long before Kakashi looked up from his Ika book and waved lazily at the Sannin. Jiraiya waved back as he moved towards his student. Kakashi, it's been a while, he stated once he was close enough. Yes, it has. The 2 men shook hands. So how's the council's favorite student doing? Not bad, I suppose, Kakashi said, glancing towards the running teen. I've had him running all week. Probably won't be able to get away with it much longer, but I'm enjoying it for now. You'd make a good Nara. If I had more brain power, maybe. So what brings you here? Whatever do you mean? Jiraiya asked in fake naivety. You only go searching for people if you have urgent business with them, because if you didn't, you'd just wait for them to come home. You caught me, I wanted to talk to you about your student's eyes. Kakashi glanced at Sasuke in an almost silent question. Jiraiya answered in a whisper. Your other student. They stared at each other for almost a minute before Kakashi nodded, then turned to talk to his student. Sasuke, I have to talk with this man for a moment. You're to continue your training till I get back. The boy gave him a look that said he was tired of this training. And if I find you had stopped, I'll have Anko join us again tomorrow. As soon as Anko's name was stated, the boy started running again, faster than before. You got Anko involved. She was bored and he didn't want to do my training, the man shrugged with a sly eye smile. Turns out she's a great motivator. So, you figured out about Naruto's sight deficiency? Kakashi asked, once they were out of sight and hearing range of the other student. Yep, he was reading my book and couldn't recognize his own name. Bit of a tip-off if you ask me. Probably should have told him the basics when I gave him the book. So you're helping him hide it? Guilty as charged. Why did he decide to keep it secret? He doesn't want to lose his ninja certification. Jiraiya was silent for a moment to decide if it was a good enough excuse. Finding it acceptable, he continued on with his questions. How many people know? As of right now, 3. Jiraiya's jaw dropped. Not including Naruto. Are you counting me? Yes. I assume the Hokage is the other. Nope, Rin, Kakashi answered, making Jiraiya gawked at him for a bit. What? The Hokage doesn't know? No. Jiraiya ran a hand through his hair in thought before speaking again. And how long have you been keeping this a secret from your Hokage? A week and a half. Wait, how long has he been blind? A week and a half. There was silence as he tried to do the math. You mean to tell me that he was only blind for 3 or 4 days before duping me for a week straight? Kakashi nodded. I'm getting rusty. Or he's just really good at fooling people. There was an awkward silence. I'm really getting rusty. Actually, from what he's actually improving in that area, Kakashi answered with a chuckle. Fairly quickly, I might add. Wonder who's training him, because it sure ain't me, Jiraiya grumbled. Maybe he's figuring it out on his own. He has a pretty good reason to need to. A natural, huh? Jiraiya said with an amused huff. I guess I made a good choice when I took him on as a student. I thought you weren't going to take on another apprentice after Minato-sensei. He's not my apprentice, but after what I just heard, I'm starting to seriously consider making him one. He'd be a great successor to keep my spy network running. With a bit of training, I have no doubt he would. If we can get him to overcome his blindness. Which is the main problem here. Jiraiya sat down on a rock with a sigh. How am I supposed to teach a boy who can't see? Same way you teach anyone else, he answered. Especially considering that he doesn't know you know. Just explain everything more thoroughly. Don't show him as much, but show some things so he doesn't think you know. Also give him a few hints towards a way he could make up for his eyes. And how do you know all this? I've been reading. He held up the Ika Ika book. I didn't think my books had that type of content in them. But it's good at hiding books that do. Kakashi peeled the book cover back, showing a book about the disabled. Found it in the library. Strange, never saw someone hide a different book in an Ika Ika cover. My books are usually the ones hiding. But wait, wouldn't the librarian be suspicious? Nope, I take out weird books all the time. She doesn't even look at the covers anymore. She's too busy flirting back at you to look at the books anyways. Am I right? What can I say? Librarians are hot, he said with a shrug. And nurses, and shopkeepers, and waitresses, and... I get it, you flirt with anything female in a 5-mile radius. You wanna read it? Sure, Jiraiya said with a shrug himself. If it can help, thanks. Just as Kakashi was about to respond, they heard a shout from town. Was that Naruto? Yep, where'd you leave him? The ramen shop. I brought him 10 bowls of ramen. He couldn't have gone through them all already, could he? Easily. Damn, I'll go find him. Good luck with that. Jiraiya just glared at him before he shunshined away. Kakashi went back to where his other student was still running, pulling the real Ika Ika from his pouch and opening it. You can stop running now, minion. It's time for push-ups. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. 5 minutes earlier. I was walking home, or at least trying to. In truth, I was lost. I had no idea where I was. I couldn't smell the ramen stand anymore, which is a good indication I wasn't close to home. I could hear someone selling fish across the street. I don't even know where fish is sold around town. It turns out that I was way too focused on where I was, instead of where I was going. I was just about to try my jutsu again to see if it would work when I ran into someone. They must have been running because I ended up on ground with said person on top me. Idiot, look where you're going, will ya? A feminine voice shouted at me. Before I could place the voice, she continued talking. Wait, you're that kid that fought the dog boy. Fish cakes. Naruto, I corrected a bit startled. Same thing, Anyways, that was a good fight, I guess I can forgive you. Thanks, can you get off me now? Nope. Why not? You're comfy. I felt her arms cross across my chest and her head rest on them. Plus you smell good, like foxes. I froze at this statement. I already knew I smelled like a fox, but not enough for a normal nose to pick up. Thinking this, I suddenly felt the need to figure out who this girl was. So, using my new senses and took in the smells around me. Oddly enough, she didn't smell bad herself, like grass, fresh water, and beetles. Strange, but she did sound familiar, like that mint-haired girl from Tacky. Yeah, that's her, Fu. After figuring out who it was, I was unable to do a mental victory dance. Instead I was spoken to by a voice I've been hearing from a lot more lately. But he sounded different than I ever heard him. For the first time the Kyuubi actually sounded scared. Shit, you have to get out of there, Kit. Why? Because I'm not ready to die. And I doubt you are either. And that has to do with her because she's the host of the Nanabi, and if she figures out that you're my host, we're screwed. One way or another. Again, why? Me and her have history. So if you stay they're going to beat us senseless. Seriously. Do you want to test it? No. What do? I asked, the Kyuubi's fear starting to make me nervous. I already told you, run. Wouldn't that make her suspicious? Good point, he said after a moment. How about you just make a slow, quiet escape before she figures out I'm here? Sounds like a plan, I answered, his own fear making me more agreeable. This chat only took a couple seconds, all the while Fu was silent, no doubt thinking about something. You know, those whisker marks make you look kind of foxy as well. As she spoke, the Kyuubi started chanting curse words. You don't say. You don't happen to know the nine-tailed fox, do you? She asked, suddenly making said fox shriek. She knows. Run. Before I could even think, I was up and darting in a random direction, letting out a frightened yell during the process. Faster. Have you forgotten I can't see? Oh, hold on. After a moment he was back to talking. There, try your jutsu now. I immediately sent a small bit of chakra out towards the real world. I almost tripped over my own feet when it came back, portraying my bleary, undefined surroundings for me. Right after I realized I was seeing stuff, I realized there was a pole a foot away from my head. Dodging it, I continued running. I kept running, dodging whatever my jutsu was able to pick up. How did you fix it? Less talking, more running, I nodded, running even faster from the girl behind me. I was doing well too, until I glanced back and ran into something in front of me. Are you alright, Naruto? The thing asked in the voice of my sensei. Figuring that it must be him, I jumped to my feet and darted behind him. Save me, I told him desperately before he could even ask why. She was already there. Oh come on Foxy, I'm not going to bite. Much. I peeked out from behind Jiraiya, to see her matching my movements. I shrieked again, diving back behind him, only to have to climb up his back when she tried to reach for me. I ended up perched on his shoulders as she jumped to reach me. Come back down, I'm not that scary, am I? You're scaring the fox, I hissed back quietly. What do you think? Before she could answer, I was yanked off my perch by my collar at the same time she was picked up off the ground by her bag. What the hell is going on here? The Sannin demanded. 7, I said panicking, pointing at her. 9, she said happily, pointing back at me. I see, he said after a moment of thought. We're going to see the Hokage now. End of chapter 14. If you enjoyed this what if then like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Peace out people.